Hello, everybody, and yay, awesome to see you, Taryn and Linde, as we are here for our next session of Conscious Coaches Power Hour. Session number 9 is, flown by. We've got 12 in total this year. And who are we again? For anyone watching the recording, we're a collective community space offered by a group of coaches. We call ourselves sages. And we live and offer our gifts and talents consciously for individuals called seekers on a path of learning, sharing, self-exploration, growth, and evolution in community with each other. And I think a lot of our sages are seekers as well. We're on the journey too. We, as much as we're offering our gifts, we're also exchanging and receiving from each other and through the offering of our gifts as well. You know, I always feel like I'm growing with every engagement I have with a colleague or with a client myself. And remembering we're part of the larger community called Solo, Search Others, Love Oneself, created by Simone Fourie. And that is a conscious community space of like-minded individuals that creates connection between seekers and sages. So if you're looking for a raw cacao ceremony, or you're wanting to go to a bliss dance, or find a tantra temple, or a practitioner in a very specific field, Solo has WhatsApp groups and an online portal where you can go and explore, see what's happening, and discover more about the individuals, the sages behind the offerings. And I must say it's an honor to be in this space because, not only do I get to engage with the community in terms of offering my own gifts, but become friends with the other sages and the other seekers as well. And it feels like sacred work to be able to do this with others, not just in my own little corner of the world. And today, myself and you, dearest Gabby Simone, we're going to talk or continue the conversation that we started a couple of weeks ago on this topic of the Rose Awakening and embracing this concept of self-love and unlocking our own inner wisdom. I think a journey we've both been on ourselves, that we've both immersed ourselves in and benefited from doing together, that we're now excited to share, widen the circle, as we say. So hello, my delicious sister. How is your heart today?
My heart's excited. Self-love is one of the topics that are so close to my heart, because it's so personal. It's such it's something that sits so deep within myself, and I feel that I've done such a lot of work with it, and I'm still working on that, just excavating and discovering and finding the bits of myself that is hidden, and learning to love what I find. And yes, for me, self-love is I want to share with other people what I have discovered in, I've been doing this for a while now. In the last year and a half, 2 years, what have I really personally uncovered? What is the things that has worked for me? And just share that. And I'm still exploring. I'm still at it. It's a never-ending story, but also how to accept what you find, how to surrender to what you find, because there's some gnarly stuff in us sometimes, we find bits that we don't like, and how to deal with that.
It's a big topic. And I was also thinking, like, when did my journey with self-love start? And it's like, how long is a piece of string? I think as a concept, I started exploring it about 9 years ago, sort of formally through education and studying to become a coach and discovering writings about it. But it's like a lifelong journey. You don't even realize you're on. But I do feel like choosing to focus on it, making it a priority as like, ooh, I want to dig my teeth into this and understand this and explore this, make it a lived experience, definitely accelerates the journey or brings so much more. Um,
Yeah, I think it's also when we go from working with self-love over here, like in your head of I should do this, and I this is nice to do, or this makes me feel good, or that makes me feel nice. But taking it from a head space into a heart space where your heart can actually, where you actually feel that love for yourself that you feel for other people. And that could be a partner, that could be an animal, that could be a child, it could be your parents. But when you are able to feel that love for you, because it ripples in all directions, and that is what makes it so beautiful. it's,
Mm.
it's just watching how it just spatters into every aspect of your life, and we don't even notice it. We don't notice how we sabotage ourselves purely because we don't love ourselves enough.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, like, can we actually look in the mirror and love what we see? Like, look ourselves
Yes.
in the eyes and be like, I love you. And the you
Yes.
behind like this physicality. Um,
Yes.
and we'll talk about practices and things later, but I know on my journey, getting to a point where I can do that and I can have those moments of like compassion and grace, and, like see myself has really
Yeah.
been liberating, like freeing and
Yeah, I
fun.
mean, when we meet, for instance, when we meet partners or our children or our animals, whatever it is, the entity or the life form that we love, we stare into their eyes, we look at them, we see them, we look beyond the fur and beyond the faces covered in chocolate or whatever it is, and you see that sparkle in that life form's eyes, and you think like, whoa, I love you, right? I mean, we've all kind of felt that somewhere along the line in our lives, but have we ever done it with ourselves? Have you ever stayed? I mean, we
Mm.
eye gaze at retreats and at different workshops and things like that, if people have attended it. But have you ever eye gazed with yourself? Like, what's
Mm.
in there? What's in
Yeah.
here, you know?
And it's interesting because I can definitely relate to like looking at a sleeping partner or a sleeping child and being like, ah, like I really feel this like love and appreciation and adoration for them. And it's interesting. I mean, it feels like it leads into this topic of like, who am I? Like, I can see them because they're external to me, but like, can I see myself and this like inner who? um, and choose to embrace and adore and love that in a similar way. And this was a question we posed or started to explore at the end of our last
Yes.
webinar that we did in this space. And we asked this question like, who am I? And are we only the roles we play in our lives? Because, when someone asks me the question like, who am I or what do you do? Like, my default response is like, oh, where do I start? But the way do I start is I need to now check in with the list of roles and which role is relevant to the person I'm talking to, so I can tell you this role so that you'll see me in a certain way. And
Yeah.
that then brings up this question of like, who am I authentically in all of these roles? Am I consistently showing up as that core essence or expression of myself? Or am I in this thinking of, well, what should I tell them? Playing into the role, playing into, I need to show up in this way for this person, for whatever inner driver is causing that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've learned that the challenge with externalizing it is that I can show up unaligned with myself. I can lose that connection. I can lose that authenticity of actually, this is me. And when I'm in that space of this is me, I feel free, life flows easier, I feel more fulfilled, things just happen. I mean, I had a conversation with someone yesterday where I just showed up as me. And it was the first time I was chatting to them, and it was about collaborating on some business. And as we're talking, I'm mentioning this aspect of my life. I'm like, yeah, there's Tantra and there's spirituality, and then there's the financial world, and then like, oh, BDSM and oh, techno music. And as I started to like drop all these little parts, I was like I'm coloring this map of who I am in this world. And in doing that, it's like we could connect deeper and deeper. I could show more of me. And by the end of the conversation, we were like, cool, let's work together. Let's do something.
Yeah.
This feels good. Um,
Yeah.
and and it almost flowed effortlessly.
Yay. So that's it's exactly what you say. And then on top of that, it is exhausting. It is exhausting to be one person here and another person there and then another person over there. It takes so much energy that we don't even know how much energy we spend reinventing ourselves every time we need to present ourselves to somebody. Because and where does that stem from? What is the root here, you know? And then it boils all back again to self-love, because when you love yourself, like if you have a partner, and I think it's probably the easiest way to express this, is that if you have a partner, you don't introduce your partner differently to different people. This is who they are.
Yes.
But when you introduce yourself, some days you are your profession, other days you are the mother role or the matriarchal role that you play, other days you are the yogi and the spiritualist, other days, I mean, it's exhausting. So we don't even know it, but subconsciously, while that person is talking to you, you are qualifying that person. You're putting again that feelers out, and instead of looking for how are we similar, we are looking at, okay, how can I present myself in a way that you're going to like me, that you're going to accept me, that I'm not going to feel like the oddball, you know? And it is exhausting. And when you stop doing that, you will find how much energy you start retaining, because this is who I am, take it or leave it. But we can't do
Yes.
that until we actually see this is who I am. I accept who I am. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's it. And my tribe will
And
find me.
well, that's just it. It's like my experience has been then it's a clear filter. Well, who's not the right person for me to engage with or do business with, and who is? It's like we can very quickly get down to the
Yes.
real stuff
Like,
and actually
boom.
exactly cut through the is this not, and be like, yes, this feels aligned. So that clarity is there. And I mean, I also want to challenge that the roles aren't wrong or bad.
Mm.
We all have these different roles. For me, it's about, can I embrace those roles and show up authentically me, regardless of the role and the space that I'm in? You know, so it's like, yes,
Exactly.
I am a mother, I am a partner, I am a friend, I'm a daughter, I'm a caretaker, I'm all these things. And who do I want to be, and how do I want to express myself and come from that inner truth of this is who I am,
Mm.
in all those spaces.
Yeah, because often also people tend to think that, well, you have to do nothing almost in life or have free time to be able to go down this road, because life is so busy and there's no time for this. And where am I going to carve out the time and things? But if you start dating somebody tomorrow and you fall in love with someone, guess what? All of a sudden you have time to go on a date. I mean, where does that time come from? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So it's about starting to get to a place where you prioritize like getting to know you
Mm.
in all these colors, like on this poster that we have up here. I mean, like 50 shades of you, you know.
Yeah.
And just, and some parts aren't going to be great, you know. It's like when you were speaking earlier on about how you look at people in your life and you love them, that love is literally a reflection because of yourself, basically, you know. So the
Mm.
love that you feel for them, or the love that you see in their eyes when they look at you, it's a mirror. That's all it
Yeah.
is. It's the same as when they trigger you, it is also a mirror. Oh, because you wouldn't be
Mm.
triggered if it wasn't something that sits within you that you don't like, or that bothers you,
Mm.
or that is not in alignment. So it is
Mm.
literally the two end, it's like polarity, two ends of the same stick. And it's about
Yeah.
coming closer to that place of loving yourself and being able to see you through your eyes, and and
Yes.
deciding, because you decide who you are. You don't just kind
Yeah.
of blow with the wind. And that's another thing I think we are not introduced to growing up, is you can choose. At some point you choose, this is the things that I was taught, and this is what I'm keeping. These are the things that I have learned through my own experiences and expressions. And I'm going to keep some of this and I'm going to mix it up like that. And if we look at colors, if your upbringing gave you green and your experiences has given you like yellow, you can squash those colors together and you come up with your own color. That's you.
Yeah,
And we
I
will
love
all
that.
be different shades of different colors. And that's okay, because there's the rainbow.
Yeah, I was gonna say being artists of our own life, and what I've experienced too is when I'm connected to myself and I'm being authentic, I'm living from that space of more energy, and often it's inspiration and creativity as well.
Ooh,
And I
yes.
feel pulled forward. I feel almost like I'm overflowing, versus that other space where I'm like ducking and diving and getting stuck in the roles and how I should show up, and then I have to like push and will and like force myself forward. So there's definitely a lot more ease and flow. And I guess it's like the self-acceptance that comes with exploring this question. And as you said, like unpacking all of it, like the gnarly stuff and the like, oh my gosh, yeah, that cool aspect about myself, like really owning it.
Yes.
So it's yeah, for me, I ask this question, like, who do I desire to be and how I show up in the world?
And that's
And
such a question, eh? Like, it's
massive.
such a, because where do you even begin to untangle this? Like, personally, I was raised up in a very religious household, and I I couldn't be myself. So if you don't have a thread to pull on, how the heck do you know who you desire to be? Like, where do you even
Mm.
start if you don't have a base?
Mm. And it can often be in response or reaction too, right? Like, I don't want to be that. So I'm going to try be
Yes.
this and see how that feels.
Yeah, but there's
Um,
methods to the madness, which we
yeah,
will get to.
we'll
Yes,
explore
because
to
I've done
later.
it.
Yeah, yeah. We've tried these things.
Yes, we
And
have.
yeah, how do we do the self-love thing? It's a hot topic. It's a buzzword. It's
I love
big.
self-love.
Mm,
Um, and people often confuse it with self-care, which is two different, very different things. Self-care is getting that lovely pedi, or getting your hair cut, or that bubble bath that you require to de-stress. That is self-care. Like, it's more of an external exercise. When you think about self-care, it's something that is more outside of yourself, and it's wonderful if you can get a pedi, a mani, and that's up your alley, and cut your hair and do all kinds of stuff. Of course, go for it, because it makes you happy, and that's the vibration that we want to stay at, is that happy, higher feeling of feeling happy, and the vibration is high. But when we talk about self-love, it is that it goes way deeper than getting your nails painted. It is that thing of, this is what I need in order to be at peace within me. These are the things that I need, so that when the day comes and I'm sitting in a traffic jam, or I made a big mistake, or life is just, it's a lemony snicker day, it's just a series of unfortunate events, it's just one thing
yeah.
after the other, and it's just,
Mm,
because that's life is messy,
yeah. Yes.
but it is that those things that you do for yourself that keeps you at least at a relative state of peace, of calm, of, you don't lose your
Mm,
shit, basically. You
mm,
don't get angry, or completely over the top agitated, and you don't, how people sometimes get, and they need to like blow off like a little bit of steam. You don't get to that when you have self-love. You don't need to blow steam.
yeah.
You blow
Yeah.
steam all the time when you love yourself, because these are the things that I need to do in order to keep my true north, to keep
Yes.
me like standing with my 2 feet on the ground, regardless of what's going on around me. And that is very personal. They're not the same
Yes.
for me as it is for you, as it would be for the next person. Um, and it's that excavation. It's so exciting, like to go and find out, like, oh, this works for me. That's not really my jam. Oh, I like that.
Mm,
Maybe I can try.
mm.
So you become so curious about yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole different ballgame. Like you don't have
And you
time for these,
experiment.
yes, these things,
Yeah.
like these mundane things that is just like drawing your attention. I'm so sorry. I'm so very busy right now. Bloop, back into yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an adventure. Choose your own, try it on. If it doesn't fit, there's so many different ways to do things. And yeah, finding the things that, as you say, like resource yourself. Because I also think on this self-development or spiritual journey, sometimes there can be this illusion that when you arrive, everything will be perfect. You're not going to get triggered. Life is going to be harmonious and flow, and life is real. Things are going to happen, but you're able to choose how you respond to those things, and able
Yeah.
to find your center, feel your center, as you say, like not lose your shit, and not have one thing spiral an entire day.
Yes.
You know,
Oh, I'm in a bad mood, and that's it for the
and
whole
that's it.
day.
The whole day, the whole week, the whole month. It can be like, okay, here's a moment. This is not, what I would have chosen. And I'm here now. And now that moment is past, and there's a new moment coming up. And how would I like to be? What do I need now to shift
Yes.
into that next space?
But also, then it gives you that opportunity when you're in the moment and you love yourself. All of a sudden, the moment doesn't become the focal point. All of a sudden, you start asking yourself, okay, this is happening. Why is this a moment? What makes this a moment for me? Does it make it a
Yes.
moment for the next person as well? No, probably not. So, why is it a moment for me? And then all of a sudden, the moment isn't the focal point, it's happening. But you go and find out within yourself, it's like, okay, why is this triggering me? Where does this come from? And then you can decide, do I want to keep it once you find it, by asking yourself quality questions, because we can ask ourselves a whole lot of crap. like like as a crap questions, but once you start asking yourself quality questions, you get to the root of things pretty fast.
Mm.
And then deciding, do I want to keep this, and if so, how is it serving me? Do I want to toss
Mm.
it? If I toss it, how does that serve me? And now
Yes.
and that is what being conscious is.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like those quality questions, the whys. Why is it like this? And why that? And why that? And that getting to that deeper. And as you say, then the choice. Don't want to keep this, don't I? Yeah, it's
Yes, like being
beautiful.
a 2-year-old with yourself, why? Why? you
Yeah.
know?
And radical
Um,
honesty. Like some of the
yes.
stuff we're gonna find is gonna be like, oh, okay, that's an ouchie why. I don't like that why, but it's there, it's real. So grace and compassion towards myself, and what can I do to love that part of myself that feels that way?
Yes.
That's creating that reaction, that behavior that results in my
Yeah.
life.
What I tell clients when they get to that part of, they get a gnarly part of themselves that they really can't resonate with, um, it's becoming your own best friend. That's what I there's a
Mm,
process of how there's like almost like an external part of you that is like
mm,
your best friend. So I would, for instance, say, if it was myself, I would say, okay, so if this was happening to Mary, what would you say to her? Because to myself, I
yes.
would say like, oh my God, you should have seen it coming. Why did you blah, blah, blah? No, 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 no. Oh my word, why did you? But if it was Mary, I would say, oh, Mary, I'm so sorry. How's your heart? How are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
So what can we do to get you just to settle your nervous system? And then we can get through all the bits and bobs. But we don't do that with ourselves. We
Mm,
shoot ourselves all the time. And that inner dialogue has to change.
mm. And some of the fears or the myths that I feel that get in our way are things like it's selfish to
Oh,
spend this time on ourselves, to focus, to prioritize our needs. Um, yeah, which is a tough one. I mean, I think I've learned it's the least selfish thing you can do to take care of yourself. Then you show up better in all those roles in the world. You show up authentic. You come from a place of an abundance of energy and love and groundedness and calm and grace. But it's being honest with ourselves that that's a challenge.
like we often say, you can't pour from an empty cup. yet we continuously try to pour from an empty cup. Like,
Yes.
makes no sense. You
Makes
know,
no sense.
so how do we fill the cup? I mean, that saying has been coined, right? You can't pour from an empty cup, but we need to discover, how do I fill my cup? And then make that a priority. The time isn't going to be given to you. If your life is like mine, I have a partner, I've got 2 children, I've got 1 dog that is shedding and wants to chew the furniture. I am a coach. I'm planning retreats and workshops. I've got, my house is going into happy season with summer coming, so lots of visitors, lots of guests. In that, I have to prioritize myself. I have to make sure that I do the things that I know I need for my, firstly, for my mental health, and what works for me. So what I do is I wake up 2 hours before everybody else does in my house. So that is not easy. That is not easy. I've been doing it throughout winter. It is -3 degrees outside of my house. My house is not insulated, but I know if I skip this for 2-3 days, by the time my kids wake up and my partner wakes up, I grow horns. Somebody can just ask me, where's my backpack? And I'm going to tell you where it is, but I'm going to growl doing it, which is not the energy I want to send my kids to school with. You know, when I sit down, I think like, you could have done this better. This boy's 8, you know? And so in order for me to be proud of myself, of not just how I mother them, but how I feel inside of myself, that I can, with love and compassion, say, why don't you go hunt for that school bag? You've got 5 minutes. Let's see what you find. I don't want to growl. And so I wake up 2 hours before them. I do breathing exercises. I do yoga. And then I have a cup of tea outside, and the birds are singing. Everything's quiet for 2 hours, and then I wake up my kids. That is what I do for me.
Yes.
And I do it for me. I need nobody else. Yes.
Yes, but then there's a positive effect that ripples out. And oh, I'm so envious of people like you that can get up to 2 hours early, because that's not me.
I can't get up. I can't, but I do it.
You do it. You do it.
I do it because the consequences are so great. It's like pouring up. Like I said yesterday, it's like taking a bit of black ink and pouring it into white paint. It splatters into everything if I don't do it. But I have taken the time to figure out that's what I need. You need something different, perhaps.
Yes, I've got a morning ritual in the shower that gets my mind and body in the right space. And yeah, it took a couple of months to develop it, but I also can see the difference. You know, the mornings where I don't ground myself and sort of set the intention for the day. So yeah, for me, it comes back to that experimentation. Try different things, give it a couple of days or a couple of weeks to see what works and what doesn't, and give yourself permission to explore, to prioritize that. I think that was also one of the myths we discussed.
Yes.
No one else is going to give you permission. I mean, we might, but no one else in your world is going to.
Yes.
And that it all then boils down to like self-love is honoring ourselves, prioritizing our needs, putting ourselves first, but not because we're not taking care of other people, not because we're not showing up in the roles that we're engaged in. But we are vouching and standing for what's important to us and prioritizing those.
Yes. Like another thing that I do for myself is every couple of weeks, I go away from where I am. I go away from my partner, I go away from my kids. And I do that for 2 or 3 days. And what I do with that time is my choice. Whether I'm hanging with you in Cape Town and we go to a lovely techno party, or we sit on the couch doing chatty, or I am alone somewhere and experiencing that. But it has become something that is important in the relationship structure, is what I want to say. So it is now not, oh, you want to go away again, blah blah blah, we got kids and all the responsibilities. It is a conversation that was had to say, I actually need this, and in order for me to be me, I need to be, and my environment has to change every now and then. I can't rinse repeat the same day. I can't rinse repeat period.
Taking the time away to sort of look from the outside in and almost and like miss the day to day and miss your people and yeah, like restore and replenish so you can come back, bring that energy back in.
Yeah, and just be you, like a better you, you know? And I think we forget that. We forget, like, who the hell are you under all the things you do? You got a job, you've got relationships, you've got responsibilities. But at the end of the day, the most important relationship you have is the relationship that you have with yourself. You came in, you were born, and there was just you. When you go, there's also going to just be you. And in between, the only person that is always with you is you.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to come and go, and they're going to do their own thing. But at the end of the day, when you go into a sacred space, what you consider a sacred space, who's with you? You and your higher power, or whoever that is. When you have to make important decisions, who's there with you? You. Like even in your job or in your relationships or with your children, you can collaborate, but at the end of the day, you have to make decisions, and that other person contributes, but your choice is with you. And so if you don't know yourself, how are we making choices? How are we approaching our belief systems? How are we tapping into that inner wisdom? Because you're just thinking to
say,
crap
for me,
yourself the whole time. You're just
exactly.
thinking, oh, that's nonsense.
Yeah. That's exactly what you said. Like, how do we make choices? And I'm like, exactly, because in my experience, it's been I've experienced the paralysis of choices. Like, oh, but like, what about this thing and this thing and this thing and all these external people I'm trying to please and balls I'm trying to juggle. And it's like, well, what's actually right for me? What's going to be a choice I can make where I'm going to show up in integrity? I'm going to show up, fully energized and ready to be involved, engaged, committed to this person, this experience. And that's been an interesting journey too. For me, that one of the beautiful secrets of self-love is that the more we take care of ourselves and listen to who we are, what we're learning, our desires, the deeper the connection we create with our own, and I call it this infinite well of inner wisdom. Because it's like, oh, hold on, actually, like the answers are here.
Yeah.
They're not out there, and I can find a way to connect to myself to make choices and decisions that feel good. And they often feel good for me and feel good for others as well. They're well received.
Yes, that's what I was about to also add to that, is that we're often so afraid that if I follow like what feels right for me, that what is in integrity for me, that it means that I have to step on somebody else, that I need to be selfish, or I need to disregard somebody else's feelings or expectations when I focus on myself. But in actual fact, what happens is that people actually find comfort and safety in you being consistently yourself. And it changes the dynamics of your relationship, because all of a sudden you are the stable person in the room. All of a sudden you become an anchor for a whole lot of things, including yourself, of course, but also for the people that plug into you, that are dependent on you, or who value you. And so it is not selfish. In fact, it is, but we are trained to be like this. Like, I passed the school yesterday while I was on my 3-hour dirt road drive. And on the wall of the school, it says, enter to learn, leave to serve. And it spiraled my brain in so many different ways. It's like, serving whom? Like, who are we serving? We're not taught to serve ourselves and then others. It's like an airplane.
Yes.
Your mask, then the next person's mask. Because if you can't breathe, the next person isn't. You can't help the next person.
You can't help the next person. Yeah.
So if you want to be of service, you have to make sure your cup is full. And and that you trust yourself. That's the other thing. We again, we don't trust ourselves.
Oh,
It's like, no, it
oh,
can't be like that. Oh no, I'm wrong. Oh, what are they gonna think? No, let me rather just make myself really, really, really tiny, and then nobody's going to see me. And that's something I'm working on, you know. But and that's the beauty again of this entire experience, is like these layers and levels, and
yes,
it's not always easy to start, you know, especially if you're doing it on your own and without community. But it is, once you get that ball rolling, it's almost like an avalanche, and the topics
yeah,
get bigger, but you're kind of surf, or you're kind of skiing that slope far easier. So like
yes,
you're skiing
yes,
on an avalanche, you
yes,
know,
yes,
and you're going like, woo, you know,
yeah,
because you know how to move, because you figured out how to flow, you know, and it becomes
yeah,
not difficult to navigate
that's
once you
it.
know. Yeah.
And yeah, we start with this question of like, how do we unlock and cultivate this connection to inner wisdom? And we talked about paying attention to ourselves, bringing awareness. And that's been my experience as well. It's like I first needed to notice and become aware of like, where am I right now? What's going on for me, like mentally, emotionally, physically,
Mm.
spiritually, um, and and really be honest with myself too. Like if I'm feeling discomfort somewhere, like I'm feeling discomfort, I'm feeling pain, if I'm feeling contracted, or if like, oh my gosh, this is the best moment ever, and I'm just like exploding with joy and love, like, ooh, like really feel it, like be in this moment.
And what
Um,
about it is giving you that reaction? Exactly what is
yeah.
this? Where's like the nugget, the golden nugget? What is it?
Mm,
You know, but also where am I feeling it in my body? So sometimes we
yeah.
don't know what we're feeling, because again, we have only been, a lot of us has only been exposed to like very base emotions. Like for instance, you can say that you are sad, but under sadness there's like 10 other emotions. So, and they
Yes.
all have different ways of dealing with them, you
Mm,
know. And um finding out where am I feeling it. So if my tummy doesn't feel good, I'm probably anxious. Or if
mm,
I've got a pain in my chest, there's probably some kind of sadness somewhere in my body that I haven't processed yet. Or if I have consistent headaches, I probably think a lot. My head literally aches. It's like
literally. Yeah.
overworked, you know. So
Mm,
just
mm,
if I feel pins and needles and electricity going through my body, it's probably my vagus nerve is probably overworked. Like my nervous system is screaming at me, like, ground me, for Pete's sake, help. You know, so
mm,
the body will tell you what is happening, and what you are feeling if your mind is unable to pinpoint it. So there isn't just one way to reach the space, you know. There's many ways, and that we must
many,
still
many ways.
discover, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, what I've done as a practice is to to like do daily reflections and journaling. And you can just create 2 or 3 check-in questions, and reflect back on the day. What were the sparky joy, open, expansive moments, and what were the, more anxious, contracted moments, and what was
Mm.
going on and where in my body, and journal so that over time I can reflect back and I can see the patterns and I can start to recognize. I mean, I had an experience this week where I started off my Monday feeling amazing and expansive and open. And I was like, whew, on top of the world, let's get to the to-do list. So excited, so creative. And by the end of the day, I was starting to contract and my stomach was like, ah. And there was a trigger. There was something that happened and my body was just going, no. Um, and I was grateful I could notice that. And then I could, talk it through myself, talk it through. It spoke to you, spoke to my partner, and get to the, okay, it's a definite no. And how now do I move forward with this no? Who do I need to communicate this to?
That's the thing, is like your body is saying no, but your mind is saying but just,
Yeah,
but if only,
yeah.
and if you override that feeling, if you almost disregard that feeling, that no in your body, um you you suppress it, it's gonna come out. And then it's tougher to deal with. So it's easier to say no now and stand in your integrity and actually get almost like flexing that muscle. And again, it's a muscle that needs to go to the gym. We need to work that muscle out. But once that muscle is functional and you can actually stand in your yeses and your nos, that you start seeing the magic of life, and you start to understand what it means to be in integrity and how amazing it feels. And once you taste that, you go like, I ain't giving that up. Like, this is not for sale, you know.
Like, I have an internal compass now. Like, I'm just like, hey, how do
you
I
ain't
feel?
fucking with it, you know. Nobody's gonna come and make my true north now a different direction. Like, this is where I'm going. You can come with me if we're aligned, you know, but otherwise, you know, not for me. We're not aligned. There's nothing wrong with you. There's certainly nothing wrong with me, because that's another thing, right? There must be something wrong with me. I'm so different.
That's a good point. The no's aren't, there's a problem, there's something wrong. It's just, this is not the path I'm going to walk down. I'm choosing something else. Yeah.
Because somebody else might say yes to that no.
Yes.
So
and
you just need to find the person that aligns with you. And that's for everything in life. But often we say yes to things that we know we should say no to. And then we need to find out, why am I saying yes to something that I know I should? Why am I continuing a toxic relationship pattern? Why am I continuing to not take care of myself? Why am I still eating burgers if I know I'm gluten intolerant? Why do I drink alcohol if I know that it can't, my body can only take 2 drinks? These are the things that I have to deal with. You know, all of a sudden I can't hold it anymore. So my body just doesn't want alcohol. And like, for me, in an evening, it's a 2-drink limit. And it's something that I struggled with, because I used to party, you know, and I used to have a lot of fun, but my body says no. And I had to honor that no and go, that's it. You know, no more. We need to find a different way to make a party fun. Maybe be more present. Maybe be there. Maybe try being there.
That's it. It then challenges you to discover other options, other ways of engaging. And yeah, for me, it definitely strengthens that inner trust, that just calm contentment with like, I'm right here, right now. This is the path for me. And then it all feeds back to that self-love. Like, I can look myself in the eye, in the mirror, and be like, yeah, well done. You know, like, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of my decisions. It's not a case of work hard, then I'll love myself, I've earned it. It's like, actually, I love myself enough to take care of myself, to prioritize my desires and needs, to do the inner work, to express myself, to tap into that wisdom and trust the answers that come. And that that feels good, you know. It's like, it's a journey of experiencing that love, not a result from doing the things.
We go into relationships with people, and within a matter of weeks or months, we trust them. We trust them with us. We trust them with our lives. We trust them with our circle of friends. We trust them with our families, and we trust them, and we trust what they say. Their opinions become like this big thing. And that's with family as well. And we trust them. But then in your mind, when a situation arises, and in your mind, your first reaction is yes or no, or there's a reaction. Let's say it's yes, but it's something that everybody else goes like, no, this is not a great idea. We tend to stay quiet, go like, oh no, it's fine, it's not a thing for me. But actually it is a thing for you. You don't trust yourself. Whereas if there was 1 or 2 other people that is picking the same thing that you pick, now all of a sudden you can say something. It's like, I went to an event a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago, and I realized that I'm going to have to go alone. And it made me anxious. I was like, okay. Like, you know, I'm not great with socializing with people. Like, I'm like the wallflower for people who don't know. I'll walk into a room. If I don't know anybody, I'll stay on the perimeter of the room. It is a thing. And I asked myself, okay, if you had a friend that would go with you, would you go? And I said, absolutely, I want to go. So I said, so the only reason why you are not going, so I'm talking to myself like I'm schizo, like the only reason why you are not going is because you have to go alone. Yes. Is that a valid reason? No. Do you want to go? Yes. So let's go. And if you don't enjoy it, if you feel awkward, if you feel like a fish out of water, get in your car and leave. But at
Yes,
least you took the
yes.
step. So go. I went. I had a great time. Made friends.
Yay. That's
Stepping out of your comfort zone in a
yeah.
safe, sane kind of way.
And that you're talking about the topic of making friends and yeah, putting ourselves out there or getting out there and connecting. Because yeah, looking at the time, we're getting close
Yeah.
to the end of our hour. We deserve to prioritize, self-love, self-care, things that align us with our desires, enable us to show up in the world, be who we want to be, authentically express ourselves, tap into that inner wisdom, and let it lead us. And I think you and I, we've discovered the magic of sisterhood, and having these circles of non-judgment, encouragement, support to be part of this journey, to help us along this journey. Doing it alone is challenging. It's like to have a space where we can bounce off ideas and share experiences and like, hey, look, I discovered this thing. Let's try this for a week and see how it feels.
Yes.
That's what that. And it's part of what we're imagining is a world where as women we're cheering each other on, we're holding each other accountable too. Like, oh, you said you're going to do this thing. How did that go? And asking those questions that can take us deeper, hold us accountable to trusting and following our desires, being authentic. So we've created our Sisterhood of the Rose community, which exists across different platforms and spaces. And we've got a Telegram group, and we're going to be adding all sorts of interesting resources into there, including the life wheel on the screen there. We'll put in a questionnaire we've got, which is called Who Am I? And has a whole lot of questions to help us reflect and explore and get down to the deeper stuff inside of us, surface it. And there's a whole bunch more. I think we'd be
Yes,
here all
lots
day
of
if we described
resources.
them.
Yes,
That
yes,
there's an
yes,
emotions wheel as well.
yes,
You spoke about like identifying and feeling fear, but what are the emotions underneath that?
yes,
And guides to where we can look in our body. So there's a QR code on the screen and a link there. And love to invite anyone to join. It's to
anyone,
use,
male, female, you're all
yeah,
welcome. Masculine, feminine, everybody's welcome.
yeah. We will explore all areas of being human and create a safe space to connect and support each other. And it's going to grow. At the moment, we're a seed.
Yes.
So watch the space. We're going to be adding and growing and expanding. We've got our first weekend away festival and workshop coming
Yes.
up, not this weekend, next weekend, 1st to 3rd
Yes.
November.
Yes.
And yeah, retreat starting from January. So we'll also, the Telegram group is going to be the place to discover things first before they hit the socials.
Yes, before we market it everywhere else, we will market it in our Telegram group. And it will also be a space, there will be different topics and different spaces where we can, so that if you're interested in a specific topic that we cover, for example, if you're interested more in self-love and that kind of thing, then there would be a space for that. And then there would be a different space for desires and pleasure and temples and things like that, because they don't necessarily always blend. And then we can honor all the aspects that are interesting to us. And I think I want to just end off by saying that our space is judgment free. Our spaces, our container holds absolutely no judgment. The core of our container is love and acceptance of self and of others. And everything that you see in somebody else is actually just also a reflection of you, because if it wasn't a reflection of you, you wouldn't have noticed it. And so whether
Yeah.
that is perceived positive or perceived negative. If something affects you, it is a mirror for yourself, and it is so interesting to excavate and to find out, like, what is being reflected back at me with a group of people who doesn't judge you.
Exactly. And that's the space, you know, just curious questions like, that's interesting. What's that about? And yeah, no judgments about it being right or wrong, just interesting, and a nugget to lead you towards some unlocking or sense of freedom on the other side.
Yeah, and your nugget always, if it goes into a group, always means that there's more people that is going through similar thing. When something goes into a group, there is not just you that needs to see, experience, express that. That's why you feel compelled to put it in the space, because other people are drawing it. They need it too.
Yeah.
Lots of lessons and lots of discoveries to be made in our Telegram group and other spaces. I'm super excited.
And lots of fun to be had as well. So other contact details and socials on the screen. And
that's us.
Yeah, that's us for today. So thank you for joining us, and if you're watching the recording, for joining on the YouTube channel. Hopefully you've gotten some little nuggets, an idea of a practice you can put into place or something you can curiously explore moving forward. The link to the YouTube channel where the previous 8 recordings are, and this one will go as well, is on the screen. And then in 2 weeks' time, we've got our next webinar on the topic of live with pleasure, deepen your intimacy, arousal, and pleasure, presented by Taryn, who's in the room. I am so excited by this. Yeah, we've had lots of juicy topics along this journey. And yeah, really excited to get deeper into this topic. And I think we've kind of not skimmed the surfaces of the others, but we've explored it quite broadly. So let's go there. Links are on the screen to register now, and we'll also share on social media in the next 2 weeks so that there's access to that to register in time too. And then solo community, if you aren't a member, if you haven't joined, go explore too. There's the portal online, there are the WhatsApp groups. There are also all sorts of interesting areas of interest in the WhatsApp groups. There's subgroups for different topics. There you can join just the events only groups where you want to find out what are the events coming up in the next while, or if you want to get into the chats, there are fascinating discussions around all sorts of things there too, and can help you discover, you know, what's the next exploration, the next place to connect and evolve and grow on this journey. So thank you, everybody. Lovely to have those of you in the room that are here, Linde and Taryn. Lots of love. And everyone for watching on the recording.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.